And we're live, sort of.
Except we're not.
But we could be, but we're not.
We
Um,
could. How
yeah,
would you know? He could be talking to you right now live and you wouldn't be able to know.
that's true. That is true. We could be live streaming it somewhere really hidden. Um,
Mm.
locally live streaming. There you go. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so in the there's been a lot. There's been a lot. Just a lot. And actually, we didn't prep this, but I want to say this first. Notion had an update about tabs. And some people may not have seen this, but I responded to a tweet and said, it's nice to see Notion keeping up with Obsidian.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that. I saw something, and I can't remember what it is right now, but basically they're copying another app, and I was just like, oh, it's nice to see that they're copying something that we've had for ages, and now I can't remember what it is. But I'll remember it eventually, and then I'll say it out loud. But I
Halfway
remember,
through this, where you'll be like, oh, it was.
yeah, I will be. Hey, carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, Notion obviously have put out this update, which has mimicked tabs and Windows, which Obsidian has had for 3 months, 4 months now. So it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to see Notion catching up with Obsidian, but Obsidian have basically put up like two middle fingers and gone, "Ha, here's Canvas for you."
Yeah, that's middle fingers, all right. That is middle fingers. Yeah. I've seen a little bit. I haven't been able to play with Canvas View. I am still recovering from being ill, so I haven't had the mental capacity to play yet.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a secret into the reason why I made the video as quickly as I did. I knew the Canvas update was going to be updated quickly, like a lot quickly. So I got my video out as soon as I could because I knew there were going to be tons of updates. So I could reference back and show, hey, these are all the things that people have done. Other people have come out with videos now. So Nick Myler came out with his one, which was about 20 minutes long. I think Nicole's come out with one around 15 minutes. I think theirs are longer because they've got sort of fluffy conversation in it. I've literally just gone, hey, here's the canvas, here's what you can do. They've sort of explored different elements. Nicole's last little bit was about her views, and then she also compares it to Scrintl, whereas Nick discusses everything about the canvas to you with the LYT sort of like perspective on it. But the problem we all have is Obsidian are developing so effing quickly that they're all out of date. So I put my video out, and there were 5 days with my video being up to date. Then they released an update. Nick released his update. Then they released an update. So his video was out of date after about 5 hours of being published. Nicole released her video yesterday, and Obsidian did another update. So her video was around like 10 hours before it was out of date. So I got, I guess you could say, like the best of the world with my video not being out of date so quick. But all of them are now out of date. All the Canvas videos are now out of date because there's so many features going. I don't know how much you've seen, but it's essentially everything you would want in a mind map at the moment. There are still a couple of things missing, but everything you would want in a mind map is there. You can add files, you can add just text, you can add images, you can add external links that work just like external embeds. You can color all the cards, you can zoom into the cards, edit the cards from there, add colors, lines, directional lines. You can align them left, right, center, middle. You can have sections of a file now, so you can narrow it down to only have a heading. So if you're planning out something, you can have like, hey, here's the main file. Here's the file again, but this is their introduction section. Here's the same file again, but here's the conclusion section. Expand in different ways. You can have a database view that works there. So you can embed a file with a database view, a database folder view there showing it, not in
Oh
DB
wow, that's
folder.
impressive.
Yep. And then you can have a data view query result, obviously, that's just rendered through the reading view, which is what Canvas uses. So you can have any sort of thing in there. What I've seen as well is some images. So they're using an image file, making it really, really big, and just using it as a background of the canvas, and then putting cards on top of it. So so some people are using it as like the RGP, RPG, even background scene thing. So you have like a whatever it is, a medieval image with different towns and the town lore on the right and then left and all over the place. And yeah, everything you could want in a mind map is there. The only things at the moment are, in my opinion, really small things, like small tweaks, apart from one main thing, which is specific to note linking tools. So at the moment, when you put an arrow between two files, it's not a bidirectional link. It's just a visual link. The reason it's just a visual link is because you can have text cards. And how do you link to a card that isn't a file?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they go about doing that. But yeah, that's a lot of information for someone that's obviously been not well over the last week. So what's your initial like, oh, that sounds cool?
The whole lot. Like, Obsidian is becoming more and more of a powerhouse every single day. Like, I'm just thinking, okay, cool. So I have Whimsical, which is a pretty popular tool, and I do love my Whimsical. I've tried other mind mapping software. I got a lifetime deal on a mind mapping software, and it was fine, but it wasn't Whimsical. I like mind mapping tools, but until I'm actually in there using it, because I have my like what I remember doing on how I track what I do, I'm not going to be able to give a good comment. But immediately I'm just like, well, damn, that's good. I like that. I like that feature. I like that feature. I don't mind too much about the linking and not linking because it kind of makes sense right now. And I would.
So at the moment, when you click on a file, all the core plugins work. So if you were to click on a file and go to the backlinks panel, you can see all the backlinks of that file anyway.
So that's not even really a problem.
Not really, unless you want to see the links inside the page. But the way I see it is if you have the links in there, I don't know how this is going to look. But if, for example, I've got 10 files there, I don't want it to look like the graph view with lines going all over the effing place.
No, that would suck.
So if they do bring it in, I want it to be toggleable. Yeah, I want it to be toggleable because I don't want to see those links.
No, that would suck. I'm being annoying. But that sounds really exciting. I like the sound of it, and I will probably go play. Yeah, and I'm kind of excited. I think the thing that I'm more excited about is the other thing we're going to be talking about today because I did have time to play with that.
Okay.
It's just like
before we get to the AI, before we get to that, I have notoriously been really not necessarily against, but not very fond of mind mapping tools and canvas tools for my own work. They just don't work for me. And when I saw Canvas, I tweeted about this. I did the video because it was a plugin. I was like, yeah, loads of people are going to be interested in this. So am I. Let's have a look. And I didn't want to hate it, but I didn't want to like it. And I like it. And I've actually completely replaced my dashboard. So it was a daily note. But what I was doing with the daily note was using that as a dashboard to go out to places. Well, why do I need a note to go out to places when I can just show all of those places I go out to?
That's cool. So you've now replaced your daily note completely?
Essentially. So my daily note is literally just a writing board of stuff for the day. So if there is something to dump, I put it in my daily note. But I don't have any of the queries in there anymore because I was using an embed in the queries for a dashboard page. Because if you have the same query on multiple pages, it can slow down your Vault because it's like trying to query everything all the time. So I had it on a dashboard page and I was embedding it in my daily note. Well, now I can show both files at the same time, which I could have done in a tabbed view, but on a canvas, it's so much easier. And then I was like, oh, I need to have a look at what videos are coming up soon. I have a data view query that's showing me them, but what if I want to have a look at the specific tasks? I don't want to bulk out the data view query with all the different tasks and due dates and stuff. So I just put the videos that are due as files to the right of the dashboard. So I now have 6 files up, and I've colored them all red for YouTube videos. So I have blue for the main daily what's to do videos, longer projects and tasks. I have a note for just dumping notes and stuff as my daily note. But then longer projects, when I want to see them and what's going on, I have them in yellow boxes lower down. And then I have an inline formula that tells me the deadline of each of those things. So I don't have to constantly go back to the dashboard to see when it's due. And I don't have to calculate it. It's just in a heading and you can see it in the canvas view. So it's like 2 weeks and 3 days. Oh, okay.
Hang on. So it's basically like Notion's, like how I used to use Notion's, like is it gallery view? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Using Notion's gallery view, but it's unlimited and not limited to one database. It takes everything. Because that's kind of impressive.
Yeah. I mean, it's way more flexible than the gallery view. I think the only thing that you could say it's similar to the gallery view is you can have pictures in it. But any information you can put inside of an Obsidian file, you can put inside of a card inside of the canvas, because that's what it is. But yeah, and because of the way the canvas works, it shows it in reading view. Then when you double click to edit, it changes it to the editing view of your choice in live preview.
That's nice.
Yeah. So if you have something that you need rendered, instead of going backwards and forwards,
pay a fucking attention to this tiny group of people who are
6.
building an app. Tiny, 6 of them. Oh.
And I will also emphasize that it's user supported. Like financially, it's user supported. The insider builds, i.e. paying for the Catalyst license, is where the majority of their funding comes from.
I don't understand. Well, I do.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's that. And then what I'm doing at the moment with my writing projects for the new year, the Danny Talks channel, I'm loving writing, by the way. I'm so happy I'm back into research. That's a side point. But
I bet you are. I bet you are very happy.
I think I've spent 15 hours in the last 2 days just in one file going backwards and forwards. No. But yeah, and planning things out in the canvas, because yeah, I have the narrow update came like 10 o'clock last night. So for me, so I was like, damn it, I can't practice and play. But it's so nice being able to just go back to the canvas as my dashboard and see everything I need to see. I'm like, oh yeah, where was I with the course? Oh, I'm there. Okay, where was I with that video? When my brain just goes on one of those like, wait, you know this thing that's completely unrelated to what I'm doing right now? What's going on? In Obsidian quickly, normally I do the quick switcher thing. But now I don't need to do the quick switcher thing. I just go to the canvas and it tells me everything I could ever need.
And I also think that this is where, if Notion are not super damn careful, which judging by their recent releases, they're not, Obsidian is going to start taking over, because the only thing that Notion has over Obsidian for kind of traditional users is the visuals. It looks prettier in Notion, but that is obviously completely not true. Just it looks prettier straight away.
I was going to say straight away, maybe. I think the easiest way, in my mind, to justify the prettier comment of Notion is because it's got columns and blocks. Like, I think the fact you can do the background of the block so easily and add the columns in so easily, that is what puts people towards Notion rather than Obsidian, because Obsidian is a traditional note, like text. It's not traditional, but it's a text
it's really not. But what I do think is that with this Canvas plugin, like addition, I have a feeling that Notion's going to have some trouble, because now I am already just seeing the little tiny bits that I have. I'm already seeing applications for my client. I'm just like, oh my God, look at this. This is what you could use now. This could help you do this. You can make this really visual. You can make this really pretty. Like there's so much you can do here, and a lot of them use tools like Whimsical. And so
I'm just thinking, a lot of the this is me just speaking out loud, but a lot of the problems people have with tools like Notion and other similars, such as like Airtable, Asana, Todoist, all the project managers, the task managers, come note takers, like sort of like trying to combine the two things together. A lot of the problems is stepping back and going, what's going on? It's the
yeah,
stepping back and going, where in the world am I? You see it all the time in Notion. Like, what database am I in at the moment? What page of a database am I in at the moment? Well, when you step back, you just get the table view or the gallery view or whatever view to overview what's going on, which is limited. With the canvas, you can put anything in there, and by anything, like the external links function. Like in the video that I do, I put in the Obsidian forum external link into a canvas, and I just scroll up and down and I navigate the web page inside the canvas. So if you can play YouTube videos inside the canvas, you can just get the link, put it in the canvas, take some notes somewhere, and then link that to somewhere else through whatever, and everything can be a mess, but an organized mess that you can just drag and drop and move.
that right there, the organized mess, because I just love it. I have not been well, so I've barely been in my space, but I've just booted it open today. Now that everyone thinks slowly synced, I'm just like, oh yeah, I know exactly where I am. I'm here, 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 here. Notion, if I disappear for a few weeks, I'm like, what? Oh yeah,
What
all of this
property
stuff
did
is
I
out.
need to change?
Right, all of this stuff is out of date. All of this stuff is not there. Like one of the things that originally pulled me away from tools like Obsidian because I was using Rome, and Rome and Obsidian are not alike. But when you first look at them, they do look alike and they do seem alike. Um, was the fact that I'd have to be in there every day and use my daily note and daily note and daily note. But I don't need to use my daily note. I think I made this comment on a tweet talking about reflections and why I'm using my daily note and I'm not doing this. I'm like, yeah, one sec.
Take a
Yeah.
pause, take a breath. There we go.
Like with the daily note, my daily note was a dashboard. That's all I've ever really seen it as, a dumping ground and a dashboard. Because that's just so much easier. Also, side note, just updated Obsidian as I opened it on here because I've not been here for so long. Loving the release notes. I know they've been doing that since 1.0,
Yeah. Well,
but
the insider build before 1.0.
like the that it looks, I don't have to go to another website, Notion.
It's the small
Using
things.
using the tool.
I don't know whether you know this. Did you know that you can bring up the release notes at any point?
No, I did not.
It's a command. So for those listening, if you want to know the release notes or the most recent release notes that you've got access to, you can open up the command palette and type release notes, or I think it's show release notes is the name of the command. And then you can just bring them up. So you don't have to go to another website and be like, what was that last release? Or what was in the announcements? Or what were the updates? Oh, let's just go to my Obsidian, type in release notes and look through them. Small features like that is just so nice.
I have so many things that I need to look at because I've just seen that another plugin is updated and added new thing. Have to go
Okay, did you watch my my short about the plugin update tracker?
No, I didn't.
This is something that I'm going to be interested to see with regards to the videos. Is the short videos are obviously short, but they are so beneficial. They are literally like tips and tricks, and a lot of people aren't looking at them because obviously they're shorter videos and they're like, yeah, whatever. Plugin update tracker was a plugin that was created about a month ago now, and it automatically looks through all of the installed plugins that you have and gives you a notification when there's an update for them. So you don't have to click the update all or check for updates button inside of the plugins tab. And it gives you a little icon down in the status bar. So it gives you a little icon down in the status bar to say whether you have an update or not. And then you click it and it shows you the changelog of the plugin inside of Obsidian and you just update it. It's so good. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Obsidian bring it into core because it's a really small plugin, but it's so useful. And I see
I'm just
people looking.
I'm trying not to look at everything right now because I'm just like, oh, that's just updated. Oh, text generator plugin is just updated, which basically means I can now add in more things because I've been playing with AI.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
I
the
mean,
next thing. Do you want to say anything about the updates of Obsidian, or should we go to AI?
there are too many things to say about the updates of Obsidian that I need to go play before I say any more because I think I might just get excited again and start coughing. Um, I am excited for the future of Obsidian, especially from a business perspective, because right now it's still very niche.
Hmm.
And I think they are making the right choices that could mean that for people like us, where we enjoy that flexibility and freedom, but also for people who don't need that much, but just want something really quick and easy,
I th
Obsidian's doing really well.
I think in so when Notion exploded, I don't think it was totally ready to be
Mm-mm,
exploded.
mm-mm.
I think there were issues, frustration points, and
With
friction
everything.
points as users. It was still a great app, and it is still a great app. But I think there were friction points because they were still early on their app journey, and power users found those friction points very quickly, and that's where formulas started going all over the places, relation all over the places, and you had databases that look like just messes. And that's where I think Notion are slowly rectifying that. But they're very focused on the teams because that's where they want to go. Obsidian, if it was to explode, I don't think would have much of an issue. Yes, there are loads and loads of features. That could be a pro and a con of the tool, but you don't need any of the features to use the tool. There was a discussion on Twitter again about Notion, and they're like, "Oh, what do you need to start Notion? What would you give beginners advice to start?" And everyone was talking about databases, learn databases, understand this property of a database, and you're like, to use Notion the way most people want to use it, you need databases. To use Obsidian the way most people want to use it, you just need to know how to type on your keyboard in a file. And I'm calling it file because inside of my course, I've used file as the word because putting note and page overcomplicates things. So I'm just calling them what they are. So what I think is if Obsidian was to explode, it's in the perfect position to explode. If there was a collaboration that happened with big creators, for example.
I hope they do collaborations with big creators.
Yeah. Yeah. I reckon if some of the bigger creators on YouTube show, like they did with Notion or other creators, it would just be like everyone suddenly pays attention. Because at the moment, I still think it's seen as this hobbyist app, like the hobbyist PKM note taker app. It's that thing over in the corner that those geeks and
Not a
nerds are looking
hobbyist
at.
that. It's just so it unlocks so much freedom, which I think is the thing that is lacking
Mm.
in nearly every other tool. Yeah.
What confuses me is so I listen to a lot of podcasts of bigger creators, and when they talk about the tools that they use, Notion is undoubtedly in there for collaboration. But for the creators that do thinking, Obsidian is used. Obsidian is being used by some of the biggest creators on YouTube. But they don't talk about it because that's not what their channel's about. And I'm like, it is literally the hidden gem of so many large creators, but they don't talk about it, so it doesn't get the publicity. I don't know whether people have heard, but CGP Grey is a YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers, I know. His videos are about animations. He's been using Obsidian for over 2 years now. He swapped from Ulysses, which he had used for years and years and years, to Obsidian, and he prefers it. In the recent apps podcast that he did, I shared it on Twitter. There's a clip, like a 10-minute clip of him just praising Obsidian. I'm like, this is one of the biggest creators on the YouTube platform, especially biggest creators in the writing space, like the thought knowledge space. And he's using Obsidian, not Ulysses, not Bear, not Rome, definitely not Notion. He only uses Notion for collaboration features with his team, And that's basically just communicate, which I did have a conversation with him very, very briefly over Twitter and said, you could do this in Obsidian. He's like, oh, yeah, I did, but I haven't thought about it. He doesn't even use Sync. He uses Obsidian free. He doesn't use Sync. He doesn't use Publish. He just uses a Dropbox account to sync it with his researchers. So he's using Obsidian full free as one of the biggest creators on YouTube. And no one knows about it unless you've watched the 3-hour podcast episode and at like hour 2:10 hear it. No one's going to be stupid enough, unless they're me, to do that.
I think that's the sad. Yeah.
It's a hidden gem not spoken about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not spoken about enough by the bigger people yet.
I think it will happen, but it's going to take a while. I just hope it takes less time.
Yes. Yeah. Right. AI. I know this is more your wheelhouse than mine, so I'm going to let you cough and splutter.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, so I have been playing with AI for a while. I've never really found something like where it fit into my workflow for a while, because it can write a lot of good stuff, but it is very much that very businessy, overtly clean speak. It's the best way I can explain it. Whereas that's not the way that I communicate at all. I am very much flinging ideas out the wall. And so that's quite hard to replicate in AI. And so I'm like, oh, dabble a bit here, play a little bit there, do a little bit here, play a little bit there, see what happens. I installed text generator inside of Obsidian. Don't really like it that much. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I was like, all right, I'll keep it there. I'll see what happens. And I saw Chat GPT and I was like, this is interesting. I like the idea, but I still don't know how it would apply to me. And then I actually saw someone in the kind of UK business space talking about how they use it. And it was to generate an article that they go and edit. I'm like, yeah, I've done that before with Jasper, but Jasper is like $89 a month. And quite frankly, I don't want to be paying that right now. And so I was like, so I installed I put the Chat AI. I'm going to call it the Chat AI because I
did the exact same thing in the journal video. I was like, I can't be saying these letters anymore. Chat AI.
Yeah, the Chat AI. And I was just like, okay, write an article about this. And so it started writing an article. And I'm like, right, bring it on, you mother. I was like, okay, create me a 500-word article on how ecological dynamics can benefit business owners. Bring it. And I did not think it was going to succeed. It didn't, not fully, but it didn't do too bad. I'm like, okay, fine. Ecological dynamics, maybe not quite the language I needed to use. Okay. I then asked about Gibson because I was like, okay, let's see if he's. And then once they found Gibson and they made that connection, I asked the same question again and it wrote an article that was like, all right, that's interesting. And then I was able to just replace, because a lot of the stuff that I do, like when I say starting from you, it is a packaged version of like ecological psychology and a little bit of dynamic systems theory all wrapped into one. So I was like, okay, then if you're that clever, replace dynamic systems theory whenever it mentions any of those terms with starting from you. Do that and then I'll be impressed. And it did. And I was impressed. And I'm like, I can actually work from this because I took it out, put it into Notion, which was quite funny because I also got access to Notion AI. I put it into Notion and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me tweak this a bit so it makes it sound more like mine. Okay, can I improve the language a little bit? So because I had access to Notion AI and I wanted to see the difference, I was like, okay, highlight AI, etc., boo, do it. And I'm like, huh, interesting. And then I was just like, okay, let's keep playing. Okay, how do I explain this concept or this concept? How would I explain this concept and the benefits to neurodiverse entrepreneurs? And I started asking really specific, detailed questions, and I'm getting good at answers. And I'm like, interesting, because this is the thing that I find quite tricky, is being able to translate all the stuff in my head into a language that is approachable for normal people. Because that is just, my brain is always going a million miles an hour, and I have that information because I obsessively speak to you and researchy stuff. So I have that prior knowledge, and I want to kind of pull back a little bit. But my brain is not easily able to do that, especially when I'm not feeling very well. So I'm now using chat AI thing to help with that and to just make things a little bit easier to explain. And then, because I'm never going to go into just publish an AI article, because I don't believe that is really, it's not for me. It's just, it feels a bit wrong, which I will try and define later when my brain is not fried, but it doesn't feel right. And so I take it as a basis of an article, and then I will go and tweak it and make it sound like me, and then add extra points that feel relevant to the work that I do using the language that I have and that I prefer. And then I do one more pass with Notion AI just to clean it up and make sure that it's an easy to digest without taking out some of the language, which it does do sometimes. So I'm not the biggest fan of, so I put it back in again. But it's
What
interesting.
does the Notion AI do? The chat
So the Notion
AI
AI is, I think, very similar. But what it does is it can, let me get the Notion up, because
because
it can,
in my head, the Notion AI is very similar to so it's not the chatbot, it's the AI before it, the engine before it or something.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very much like that. And basically I can, I got logged back into Notion. So I have a bit of text, and I can basically, gotta log back into Notion. I just realized my resistance and annoyance with that. I have to log in.
Obsidian, you just pushed a button.
Yeah, and now I'm waiting for the bloody thing to load, because of course I am.
Actually, talking about buttons while we're there, I've Obsidian recently updated their ribbon, so you can drag up and down commands and remove them, very similar to Commander. You can't do it on the other things, but the Commander plugin that I'm using it way more now. And what I've realized is that if I add commands to the tab bar and add colors to them, they serve as buttons. So instead of having buttons inside of my Obsidian, I just have Commander commands on the tab bar. So if I want to add a new video, I push the green tick at the top of any file, and it adds a task to my daily note. If I want to add a new video, same thing, just the video icon that's red. Essay is the note that's purple. And then some of the other default commands that I'm using a lot is open tab in new window. So instead of clicking on the tab and dragging it to the new window and then trying to figure out where it's going, I can just push on the button on the command and it does it for me. And most of the time, because of my split screens, it throws it on my second screen. So it just throws it over there. I'm like, nice. And then if I want the outline, again, I just click the outline command at the top of the tab, and there's the outline linked to that file. I don't have to fiddle around with the core plugin outline anymore. And it's just ease of use.
Love it. So I finally got in there. It only took forever. So with the AI assistant, basically for any text, you can see a number of different options. You've got improve writing, fix spelling and grammar, summarize, translate into a multitude of languages, which is kind of cool. Explain this, make longer, make shorter, find action items, use simpler language, and help me edit. And so what I often do is I go in, I fix spelling and grammar because I can't be bothered. And then I'm like, either it's improve writing just to see what comes up, or I'm just like, make shorter, use simpler language, explain this. And I had an article that I had written, which had a link, and I can't remember where it is right now, but it had a link to a Wikipedia page around the edge of chaos. And it found that and put that into my article when it rewrote it, which I was quite impressed by. I was like, all right, fair enough. You actually thought about what I had and used that context to create something, and then I edited it and tweaked it like anything. And so I'm finding that really interesting. And I prefer how Notion AI have done it in comparison to the text generator plugin, which I find a little bit odd. And I don't really like how I interact with it in Obsidian.
I think because the AI is obviously online and Notion is also online, it's easier to interact because you just go, hey, can you essentially log into the AI service and then just do the things. Whereas, because I was reading through one of the Reddit threads about using Chat AI, so the GPT version inside of Obsidian, and some of the people were saying, well, because it requires an API, you need to essentially go online, then log in, then copy and paste the results and bring it back to Obsidian, which is offline, which adds loads and loads of steps. So the way I see AI being used inside of Obsidian, because Obsidian is an offline tool, either there needs to be some sort of integration that is somehow logs you on inside of Obsidian, or it just directs you to that AI for you to interact there.
Is
Yeah.
that kind of similar to how like the Kindle plugin works, where you have to log into Kindle to Amazon to get it to work? Kind of similar way. I quite like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But obviously, like the plugin inside of Obsidian was made by one person in like 2 weeks, whereas Notion spent 3 months probably developing it with how many engineers and developers?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is fair to say. And I think I'm really liking the AI. I mean, I don't have a problem personally with AI tools as long as the key thing is
tools. Carry on. I wanted to
yeah.
say some stuff about AI in a minute.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with AI tools because they are designed to support you. And hence why I use the term tools, because that's all they are. Like you can just create a generated post and publish it and etc and think nothing of it and take all the credit and all that nonsense. But I don't view it in that way. The way that I view it as a supporting tool in my repertoire of like creating content. Because as a business owner, from a business standpoint, there is a lot of content that has to be generated. There's so much to write about, and sometimes it's hard to reword your own words. And sometimes it's super expensive to hire a copywriter to help you. Now, a copywriter will always be better. That's never going to change. Human to human interaction will always surpass AI. And I will stand on that hilltop and die. But I think it helps to get the process started. A lot of the problems with my content, personal like experience, is once I get started, I'm gone. I'm done for hours. I could just keep going, and I struggle to stop. But it's that spark of inspiration that I find so hard in terms of creating my own content. It's that spark at the beginning. If I'm having conversations with people, it happens immediately. And so that's the kind of use case, I suppose, that I am using for the AI. It is a generation, a spark and a generator to get me going, to get me moving. And then I will produce probably about 5 or 6 pieces of content out of that one piece of content instead of it. And it's also going to unlock for me, kind of bringing it back into the PKM conversation. It's going to be really cool to be able to have people go, hey, what is perception and action coupling? And people will just type that in and will know and get in. Well, no, will have that information and start learning stuff and be able to dive into things that they don't currently understand. Explain paper, elicit, all of those tools that can help people dive into the research. I'm excited about that too, because it means more people will have the opportunity and the capacity to learn more, which I always am, you know, I'm up for more people doing more research
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's going to help everybody in the long run.
So as everyone's aware, I watch a lot of YouTube. There are three creators I've been following quite a bit with regards to their opinions on this. One of them I'm going to save to the end because I think he has the most to say and most relevant points. MKBHD did a video yesterday, and he spoke about Chat AI and DALL-E, the image AI, and spoke about copyright potential, creativity issues and things like that, where he was saying, are we creative if we're using Chat AI to generate things? And that's certainly a question. I don't think there's going to be answer to that because it's subjective. What is creativity? What is inspiration, etc., etc. And then he brings up an interesting point about copyright and fair use. What is fair use and copyright? And I think this is the same for every creator anyway. Like it's not just, oh, AI copyright. Well, if you're using inspiration from a blog post and you don't source it, you have the same issue. It's just instead of AI throwing it at you, it's Google throwing it at you. So what's the difference in the search engines? I don't think there really is one. And this is something that what's his name? Hank Green expanded on a little bit in a Vlogbrothers video with how are we going to navigate this? And he was saying that the creator industry is a new industry, fairly new industry to the world, and we are still struggling with how to navigate creators on YouTube and TikTok. And we are, in some countries, really making a hash of sorting out society's changes. How in the world are we going to manage AI on top of that? I have no idea. We can't even like sort out yesterday's problems. How are we going to sort out tomorrow's problems? So AI certainly brings in these questions. And when it comes to the sourcing, referencing of information, Marcus said something that was very interesting. He emphasized the fact that AI can be wrong. And I want to emphasize it again, like strongly, because AI comes up with a load of rubbish. I tweeted something, and I'm glad my followers actually caught it, but I asked for Chat AI to give me a reference to self-determination theory, and it gave me a reference that doesn't exist. It made up a book. It made up the name of a book, and it used the authors of SDT and just made up a year and said, there's a book, here's a reference. No, there's not. It doesn't exist. And my followers caught that, and I was like, yes, I like you, follower, because you actually do the due diligence. And this is what both of the creators were talking about, is that, yes, AI can give you answers, but you've still got to fact check it. You've still got to do the human thing to see if it's right or not. And Marcus's analogy was like Photoshop. AI is like Photoshop. If you want to focus on an image, you can cut out the background and you can use whatever tool it's called and whatever tool you use, Photoshop, Affinity Photo, whatever. But there's going to be some rough edges. And in AI, those rough edges could be things that don't exist, which is pretty big for someone that's writing text, especially to an audience that are going to use that as potential news or knowledge or fact or education. So humans need to get rid of those rough edges. And this is where I think Jazz's contribution to AI is massive. Are you familiar with Jazza?
No.
So he is arguably the biggest arts channel on YouTube. He's Australian. He's very funny. I've watched him for the art because he's a very creative person, but he's an extremely good learner. He will take some random thing and try and paint with it or try and do art with it. That it could be foam, it could be literally anything, paint, it could be like a board and then trying to paint on the board, like IT boards, whiteboards, iPads, all that sort of stuff. And just random things as well, like the whole bucket thing, the whole bucket trend with the circle stuff, all art. But he's been diving into AI art ever since you could start drawing on tools that auto-fill things. So, you know, when you draw on an iPad, you have a circle and it auto-corrects the circle. That's when he started with AI art. So he's very experienced in what it can do. And he did a video with his brother recently. Well, it's kind of like a joint video. And they discussed AI art in great detail because the image AI is far ahead of the text AI. And what they were doing, or what his brother was doing, was using the degrees of freedom inside of this Python connected AI generator to say, okay, take this starting image. I want you to change it a little bit, but I want you to, so there's like 2 dials. I want you to change it a little bit from the original image, but I want you to be really free on what you can change. So it may be a person, and then it changes the person into a knight or something. If you move down the degrees of freedom and then you increase the how much you can change the original image may be completely different, but the style is the same. So if you draw a stick figure and you say, hey, change the image to whatever you want, it may no longer be a stick man, it may be a stick dog with a house, but because you've kept 1 degrees of freedom low, it's there. And what his brother was doing was essentially doing generation production with AI. He was saying, okay, throw this. Okay, I like the face of this image. I'm going to take the face of this image, put it on my Photoshop Q image, put the Photoshop Q image back into the AI, and then generate it again and again and again.
I've seen some of these things with video game like art as well, where people create general starting point to create icons, and I think that is so cool. I love that is how I also see the text thing. What I do is kind of very similar. I'm like, I take snippets. I'm like, oh, that's quite nice. Yeah. Let me go fact check that shit because that doesn't sound right. Let me go check. And then just coming back and forth, and like having some building blocks to work with, and then adding more and more of the human element in. And I think that is, for me, where I'm comfortable. Like for my own like use case, I feel that is fine.
I think that's the way the tools will go. I don't think AI is an answer. I think it's a tool, and I think it's a tool that can help you get started, have a direction, expand in certain ways. I think it's a brainstorming tool for writers.
Yes,
that's how I see it.
Brainstorming tool. Yes, it's not gonna. I see so many doom posts going, we're never going to be creative ever again. So screw you. I got so creative when I was just like, screw you, you're wrong. I got creative. I generated a post. I reminded myself about SMART goals and how I don't like them, because I think we had a conversation about it, and I generated a post on why SMART goals aren't useful for business owners. It started creating little pieces, and I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of true, but also I would tweak this here and change this here, and the language is really annoying and repetitive, so I'll go tweak that. But it's a creative tool, just like the paint bucket in Paint and a line tool. Like, it is not, and I did a daily podcast on this around how AI tools are just tools. It's a hammer. Now you can use that hammer to smash someone's head in, or you can use it to build a house for someone who is homeless. It is however you use it. And I think so much of like, there is so little nuance in the conversation. Shock horror. When I think it's a tool. And if we treat it as a tool, there are people who are going to abuse said tool. We see it all over Twitter with the templated replies and how everyone is sharing the same 8 tools over and over again because it's popular. There are always going to be stupid, dumb stuff like that. But there is also going to be potential to create something new, to increase creativity rather than reduce it. It depends on how creative you are with the tool. And to be fair, let's even go, what the hell is creativity anyway?
An upcoming Danny Talks video.
Why am I not surprised?
That list is huge. So what I think is important with the AI text tool brainstorming thing, what I think is important to consider is that it's going to re-emphasize fact-checking, re-emphasize research, re-emphasize the importance of research, because people aren't just talking out of their bottoms anymore. They're creating AIs to do it for them, so they can now spout even more shit. Yeah. So those people that talk rubbish will be able to talk more rubbish, and it will be able to make sense because they're using AI to make the rubbish make sense because they're just making it up. Yes, it can be positive, but it can be negative. And this is where I think it's going to be even harder for individuals online to decipher what is right, what is not, what is true, what is not, what they can use, what they can't use. Fake news is just going to explode. So those skills of how do you fact check that is going to be massive. And that's the sort of skill I think should be taught in education. Forget how many wives Henry killed. Like, no one cares. Like, how do you fact check that online? If you see someone says online, oh, Henry VIII killed 25 wives, and you don't know that it's whatever it is, 8, 9, 7, something like that. I don't know. Don't pay attention. Don't care. Yeah, you're doing the thing. I was going to do the same. Divorced beheaded died. Divorced beheaded survived. Yep. So it's wait, no, it's 6. Divorced beheaded died.
Yeah.
Divorced beheaded survived. Yeah, 6. So I was 1, 2, or 3 off. But yeah, no one cares about that. And Victorian times and all that stuff. Yeah, great. Most people can Google it or AI it when they're older. Like, the only reason I remember that song is because we took the piss out of it at school. Like, we didn't actually care about it. We just took the piss out of it, and we were making fun of it, which is why we remember it. It's the same as Pythagoras' theorem and right-angled triangles. I don't remember it because it's useful. I remember it because all of the lessons where we did it were like, when are we ever going to use this? This is so stupid. So we spoke about it because it was stupid, not because it was useful. If you learn how to reference, how to source, how to fact check inside of school, then all the things you're taught in school, you can just Google or AI it and then just fact check it. How do you fact check it? Use AI. Elicit. If you elicit one of the questions, sorted.
And I just love so I'm enjoying elicit. I mean, we've been talking about elicit before. It was cool. Now it's getting cool. It's great.
I still haven't done a proper video on elicit. Every time I go to do a video, they update it. And I'm like, bugger.
Oh, they've just recently added something new where you can actually measure the quality of the publications or something. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
But that's what I mean. Like, elicit is just like Obsidian. You do a video, a week later, it's updated and your video's outdated. I'm like, can you get to a stable point, please? Like, with Obsidian, with the main updates, they got to a stable point, and then the insider builds were just sort of like insider builds here and there. And I only do a video when it's a big insider build update. But elicit, every update's friggin' big.
They're doing really well. It's amazing. And it's a free fucking app. It is free. Sorry, I'm swearing. But it's a free app
that does good fact checking.
Yeah. And then you have tools like explain paper. So if you have really complicated papers that your brain just cannot process right now with the science and the math and all the complicated stuff, you put it in explain paper, you highlight a section. What the bloody hell does that mean? It will tell you. And it's so amazing.
So I'm curious. I haven't explored explain paper enough because I don't want to sound egotistical here, but I don't need something to explain the paper to me for most of the things that I'm reading. So I looked at it, I used it like once, maybe twice, and it was like, okay, that's cool, and then sort of moved on, sort of thing. So how would that be useful when we consider the other AI tools? So let's go through a workflow. You have a question, you want to brainstorm. You brainstorm it in text AI. Then you get some interesting points up and you're not sure about certain points. So you ask it to explain it again, brainstorming. You go, okay, this is really cool. I want to fact check this. I go to elicit. Do you type in the same question? Do you type in your own question? Would you type into elicit?
It does vary. It does vary depending on what it is. But yeah, sometimes I just completely skip text AI and go straight. If I know or have heard of something from you, for example, and I'm like, what is this? I'll just skip straight to elicit and just ask the question in elicit. Either I would, if I want to understand concepts going up and down, I use the thing where it kind of goes like the subtopics and the topics above, so I can figure that out. And then I do a question search, find a couple of papers. I ask, because you can ask questions in elicit now and get answers to the questions in elicit. I'm just like, oh, well, hi there. But sometimes the answers are not quite what I'm looking for. So I go get the paper, I download it, upload it into explain paper, And then if there's something that I don't fully understand, I'll highlight it and go, what does this mean? Or what are they trying to say?
Philosophical question for you.
Yes.
Fully understand.
What?
What fully understand? What do you mean by fully understand? Because we all have obviously degrees of understanding. So when do you in your head go, I don't understand this enough, I need another tool to help me?
When I'm not able to explain it simply, when I'm not able to explain it,
To a 5-year-old. For those that are on audio, he's now muted his mic and is coughing in laughter.
yeah, Feynman technique obviously is the best thing in the world. So, no, finish dying now. Yeah, to me, if I'm able to explain it clearly and concisely, I know enough. That is when I'm like, okay, I don't, or when I'm saying words I don't actually get. If someone was to go, what is that? And I couldn't reply quickly, that to me means I don't understand it.
So for me, that's what I call the interrogation test. So that's how I know whether I need to explore something a little bit further or I need greater depth in understanding something. What I will do is I will interrogate myself, which is reflection. It's called reflection in action. And I will interrogate myself and my own understanding. And I will just be a dick to myself and I'll just ask all the really annoying questions like, why? How do you know? What does that mean? And
that's pretty much what I do. Same thing. Yeah. Until I get to a point where I'm comfortable. I mean, I am getting used to the fact I can't know everything, which is annoying and I don't like that.
It's impossible. Don't try.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And it's impossible, so I'm not going to try it. But I want to get to a point where I'm just like, when I still care about the answer, when I still have that, oh, yeah, good question. I don't know. And when I'm still interested, when I'm still, falling down the rabbit hole, that's when I'll keep pushing. When I reach a point where I'm no longer, where I'm just like, okay, cool, I kind of understand this, we're kind of going around in circles, or then I'll stop.
That right there is called synthesis. When you're going around in circles or you're reading new papers and you already know what it's saying or you can predict what it's going to say and what it's going to come up with, you found synthesis in your understanding. The question then is, do I want to find critique, or is the synthesis I have found contained in some way? Is it constrained in some way via the methods, i.e. the sample size, the group, etc.? And that's where you can go down different rabbit holes. But what I tend to do with those questions is I don't answer those questions because I have far too many to try and answer. So what I do, and what I'm doing even more now that I'm back into my writing, is quick tip. I'm writing and I'm using tasks inside of my writing as like, oh, this is a really thing I need to do. But I'm also using comments, and I'm using the comments, which I'll explain in a minute, but both of them I've added CSS so they're yellow. So when I go down the page, I know where I have a comment or a task that I want to work on. Yes, the tasks appear in a data view query, but I can quickly see going down the page where I'm at, what I've edited, what I'm working on, what I'm not working on, which is really helpful. Anyway, back to the comment bit. What I will do is I'll put those questions in a comment, and then I'll carry on. And then when I go back to it, if I don't know what the question means, it was a spur of the moment question, or I didn't explain it well enough. And if I can't explain the question well enough for future me, the question has a flaw somewhere in its creation. There is something I've misunderstood, something I haven't understood well enough yet that I need to go explore, which is a cue to me to go, okay, this was a question I cared about, but I didn't understand why I was really asking the question. In which case you have somewhere to explore. And that is my trigger to continue researching. When people say, how do you find motivation to keep writing or keep researching? I'm like, because I have so many effing questions hidden in so many different places that I need to find answers, well, that I want to find answers to. And that is why writing is thinking. Like, writing is extended cognition. Like
Yeah,
it is thinking. It is part of the cognitive process.
yeah,
And
that's pretty cool.
I think AI just exasperates those questions because AI will generate source content. And that's where questions come from, source content. And if you have a quick way to get source content into you to trigger questions, then you've got more and more places to go.
And that I think is exciting because a lot of the conversations I've had with business owners, how do you find the time? Why do you spend the time? Because I care enough to go research the papers, but getting access to the papers is a pain in the backside. Not anymore.
I like the direction that Elicit have taken with Semantic Scholar and trying to use open access papers, because it means you don't have to do the filtering. It does it for you.
Mm.
And it's also picking up the abstract automatically, which is very nice. You don't have to go through the abstract. It gives you an answer in one of the columns,
Yeah,
properties. I
yeah,
don't, whatever you'd call it. Yeah, it gives you the answer there. So it reduces so much of the friction. My one worry about Elicit being used by people is because it does give you a summary, people misinterpreting the summary because of their lack of understanding of how research works. We've discussed this enough from a philosophical perspective, a philosophical perspective, that you can look at an answer and go, I don't know about that. You're cognizant enough to be reflective of the information you're receiving and you're
yeah,
perceiving. Some people aren't.
yeah,
I would go out on a limb and say a lot of people aren't.
yeah,
But I think them misinterpreting academic information is better than them using AI generated, potentially completely incorrect information. Because
yeah,
we can deal with a misinterpretation. Misconception, a little bit harder.
yeah,
Actually, a
yeah.
lot harder.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I think it's going to unlock so many options for people, which I think is like opportunities to actually, I was going to say learn, but then I realized what I was saying. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. To explore, to experience the joy that I experience when I'm diving through a paper. Like when I'm doing that research, I'm like, oh, that's a really, oh, oh, I didn't think, oh, like those moments that are so exciting and riddled with dopamine, and I'm just like, oh, yummy. I'm gonna go play with that now. That excitement that keeps me going through really complicated papers, and now reducing the complication of papers by using AI tools to help translate that.
What's your experience with Zotero now? Because you've got loads of AI stuff. What do you do with Zotero?
I haven't used Zotero in a while. I use it for capture primarily.
So capture the paper and then just have a quick look through the PDF.
Mm.
I'm the same. The reason I ask is I get lots of people asking me about the Zotero integration plugin. Because for whatever reason, people seem to think I'm an academic. And they ask me about Zotero, and the more people ask me about how I use it, the more I really wonder what I'm using it for.
Mm.
Because I'm writing at the moment a lot, and I haven't used it because I'm not at that point of my writing process. So I'm researching, then I'm outlining, then I'm processing or writing or producing, whatever you want to call it, the information. So I created some sort of script. And most of the time when I'm creating that script, I'm creating it from the sources I've already gathered in the outline process or the research process.
Yeah.
So the only time I really need to go looking at things in Zotero is when I'm researching something.
Mm.
But because I have so much stuff already through the capture process, I don't really use it in my writing process because it's like I've already done the research, so I'm not there yet. But yeah.
I also think you're at that point of like synthesis where you've read so much, it's just there for you.
Hmm.
And like for me, I'm still quite early in that process. I have some stuff, but I am still currently primarily using capture for it to capture stuff. And then I'm gonna go and then I use the other tools to go play. And then like one of the things that I'm possibly gonna play with is doing more content next year. I know I need to, and I would like to. And I'll be interested to see how my process changes because I was sitting with a delicious reflection of like, why am I holding back the information? Because I have so much stuff that I've learned through our conversations and my own reflections. And why do I not share it in the business world? Because I've made an assumption that they're not capable or able to do it. Now, that may be that may have some
Relevance.
but does that mean it shouldn't be shared? And I'm just like, no, because otherwise that will just continue. Why am I not sharing this really amazing information? My struggle with presenting it in a way that is interesting and engaging and captures people's attention. But then I have AI that can do the stupid stuff that I don't enjoy with that, which is the marketing. I love the info. I love the lovely words and
Insights.
what it means and the insights and the creative. I hate that other part of the process of trying to make it digestible because I'm just like, I could talk about it forever.
I personally would categorize that as storytelling. Telling a story about the insights. That
is the thing that I mean. I enjoy telling stories, so perhaps I'm not seeing it as a storytelling because I like storytelling.
So I think storytelling is obviously an umbrella term for communicating a certain narrative. And I think storytelling needs to match the audience you're telling the story to. So it's a skill to tell a story to a specific audience, especially when you bring in a medium. And I think there are some creators online that are very good storytellers and very good creators in certain mediums, i.e. YouTube videos or TikToks, but their insights are poor.
Yeah.
So they are good storytellers. And this is where the online content world goes. Good storytellers get the popularity, get the interest, get the intrigue because they're good storytellers and they can create good content. But the insights they have and the meat of the story, I guess you could say,
doesn't have substance.
They're sweets. They're not broccoli, and sweets aren't very good for you.
Yeah. Whereas we have the broccoli.
Yeah.
And you will eat your broccoli.
Exactly. In a nice way, of course.
Sorry for.
I like broccoli. I like broccoli as like an actual food. I don't like Brussels sprouts though.
No, Brussels sprouts can die. They can die. Die.
Having said that, if you were to blitz I say blitz as like blender, like just move it into like shreds and then cook it with bacon, then I like Brussels sprouts. Like cut up small bits of bacon and then put the Brussels sprouts with it, and it's like, oh, it's really nice because the bacon fat goes into the Brussels sprouts and it makes anyway. That's food conversation. That's how we get around it. Yeah, that's how we get around it at Christmas. We
just don't eat it.
Like, that's really nice.
Well, my partner and my son loves it. Me and my daughter hate it, and we don't touch them. And we're just like, no, I'm not eating them. You can. For years, I was made to eat Brussels sprouts. It was only years later that I found out that neither one of my parents liked Brussels sprouts, but they made me eat them anyway. I am so annoyed.
My mum doesn't like peas. My mum, if you put like one pea on her plate, she'll be like, "Who put this here? Who peed on my plate?"
Love it.
Yeah. But yeah, now we've derailed this conversation a little bit. Let's bring it away from peas and Brussels sprouts back to content and AI. Where I think it's going to be interesting moving forwards for me in 2023. That rhymed. is using my ability or lack of ability at the moment to create stories, because that's the skill I want to develop in 2023. I am at a point now where insights, I'm good. Content creation, I'm good. I can make content, and I'm at a point financially, I think, where I can move away from having that as a like behind the scenes thought of what if I don't do this or that, or what if this suddenly stops. It's the behind the scenes in my head. Maybe I should fully focus here, or maybe I should look for this and trying to find up. No, I'm at a point now where I know what I'm doing for a business. I have a business identity, if you want to say. So I'm like, okay, let's develop these skills that are really difficult. And let me tell you, editing in DaVinci Resolve is literally like going into Obsidian. Like, oh, yeah, this is really easy. Let's try and use some advanced features. Here's like a million features for you to explore. Great. Great. It only took me 2 years to fully grasp Obsidian. I'm still learning.
And then a new plugin goes out, and you're like, oh, hello there.
DaVinci Resolve don't have the plugin element, but it might as well do, because each section of DaVinci Resolve, when you go into the edit panel, is literally a whole set.
I cannot just no.
You go to the edit mode. That's where I've been living, in edit. I've just been living there, moving things around like the normal edit view. I'm like, cool. I tried to explore Fusion.
Uh-oh.
I was like, what are these node things? I click right to go to a context menu. There's like 20 buttons.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I have. Yeah, no.
Just Fairlight is another entire thing. You're just like, oh, everything that you would want as an editor is there. But as the meme in the Obsidian Discord says, you don't just learn all the Obsidian features in DaVinci Resolve. You don't just learn all the DaVinci features. You just don't do it. You can't. There's too many. So yeah, I'm going to write a nice script with AI, using text AI probably a little bit here and there to see how it works. Elicit, yeah, I mean, I was exploring it using Elicit, obviously, and creating a script, and then I will painfully try and edit a video.
Should record your process. That'd be quite interesting.
Once I've done the first video and I've learned a lot of the skills that I'm going to be able to reproduce, I'll be okay. But it's like, how do you get that color grading right? How do you get that audio right? How do you find the audio for this to mash it to that? How do you transition like that? How do you get those elements all in there without them effing up each other? How do you just get
Which brings us to our
down?
sponsor for this episode.
Yeah.
We don't have sponsors.
Me. I can sponsor the episode.
Skillshare.com.
I'm planning on doing a video about Skillshare.
Oh, now I want to know.
I'm thinking of titling it something like The Dark Truth Behind Skillshare.
Spicy.
I've taken some inspiration from, I'm going to butcher the name, Magnets Media. Joe. That's what his channel name was before he changed the name of the channel. Magnets Media is a business channel, business and money channel, that takes inspiration from James Janney. I just made an assumption. Do you know who James Janney is? No, another big YouTube creator. He made video essays popular, essentially. And he did video essays, very dark truth, triad truth behind sorts of videos about money and MLMs and all the different like self-help stuff, the dark sides of things. And Magnets Media has done something similar in the business world and takes companies and tells you the story behind the company, the story behind the creator, the CEO, and some of the hidden things you don't see. And a lot of it is like the dark truth of, or the hidden secrets behind, and how they rose to power, or the illegal elements of someone's rise. And they're really interesting videos for anyone interested in business, money, storytelling, that sort of stuff. And they're very well edited. Both like Magnets Media, so Joe took inspiration from James Janney. So both channels highly recommended from a storytelling, editing perspective, and they are the videos I'm taking inspiration from. But Skillshare has some, I don't know whether they are secrets, dark truths, or just elements to the way it works that are not necessarily good. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. And I want to do something similar with Brilliant. I want to do something similar with Brilliant as well. I don't think it would be like a dark truth illegal element, because I don't think there is a storyline there, but I haven't done the research yet, so there might be. I don't know. But there is learning implications to the way Brilliant work. So, because the channel, Danny Talks, is about education and learning, does Brilliant actually do a brilliant job of teaching or not? And these are the sorts of topics of conversation I want to bring up in the Danny Talks channel. So they're not going to be, hey, I made this video in 2 weeks. They're going to be, hey, I researched this video 3 months, and then I spent like a month trying to make the video work.
That is where I'd want to actually do YouTube. Like in English, really well.
English language we do.
Yeah. Do English.
English. Oh, wow. Yeah. Video essays, that's where I'm going. The Danny Talks channel, I've changed the banner, and I'm going with an extremely simple aesthetic. White and black. And the reason I've gone white and black is because, in my mind, learning and education is not black and white. Learning and education, we sit in the grey all of the time. So what the thumbnail is going to be? Grayscale. That's the plan. But forget all the fancy colors and all the effects and stuff. No, I'm going to keep it simple, white, black, and then grayscale thumbnails with a bit of like drama and dramaticism in there. With obviously titles like The Dark Truth that kind of matches, but
I like it.
Are you on the channel?
Yeah.
It's
loads on it.
Oh yeah. I unlisted all of the videos except from that live stream. There's one live stream public currently on the channel. But I don't think it really matters, because the live stream will... The plan is to move the live stream to the Danny Hatcher channel. So.
Really?
Well, yeah, because if Danny Talks is going to be about learning and education, and then Danny Hatcher is going to be about the how I do the thing with all the tools, it makes sense that a Tana live stream goes on the channel that talks about all the tools.
But live streams.
Yeah, it's just a live stream video. Because it's a video, I just download the video and then...
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I will do a live stream. So I didn't do the Tana live stream on the Danny Hatcher channel because the Danny Hatcher channel was just Obsidian. Well, that's the direction I wanted it to go, and that's the direction it's going in. But with the Danny Talks channel, Danny Hatcher will be how I work. So that'll be Elicit, Zotero, Obsidian, and then any other tool that may intervene, i.e. OpenAI. Yeah. So that's how I'm treating it for 2023.
Nice.
How we derailed again, I don't know, but
well, we kind of have and we kind of haven't.
True. Yeah, anyway, let us know what your thoughts about the Canvas plugin and the AI conversation in general.
Yeah, very intrigued. Let us know.
See you guys next week.
Bye.